A tough loss for the New England Patriots in a game that went down to the wire in Las Vegas once again. Well, kind of. They lose 21-17 to the Las Vegas Raiders to drop to an abysmal 1-5 record with the Buffalo Bills coming to town and then a trip to Miami against the Dolphins. Not really looking good for the Patriots the rest of the way this season. These last two games are the ones that you would chalk up as potential victories heading into the season. The 1-3 start was not that surprising. Patriots started 1-3 the two previous seasons, and they were competitive wild card team the first year under Mac Jones, and they were competing for a wild card spot. They were actually in the playoff picture heading into the finale last year after starting 1-3. But this year's 1-3 was a little bit different. We saw what happened with the Dallas Cowboys, just getting crushed. Bill Belichick's worst loss of his career, followed by the second worst loss of his career in a shutout against the New Orleans Saints last week. Patriots looked a lot better today, though, even though they did lose, just losing by 4 points in a game where they really only lost by 2 points. It came down to a safety in the final drive, kind of desperation moments, and Patriots had a chance, though. I mean, Mac Jones threw a deep bomb to Devontae Parker, who was double-teamed, and Parker just couldn't come up with it. The ball hit him right in the hands, and I'll get a little bit more into that later in this video, just the disappointment that Devontae Parker has been, and another terrible acquisition by Bill Belichick at the receiver position. But I want to start with Mac Jones here. This was still not a great game for Mac Jones, although the numbers are certainly much improved from the last 2 weeks. I mean, it's easy to improve when you hit rock bottom like he did, but through 24 of 33 passing, so high completion percentage for 200 yards, okay, and one interception, but it was a really bad interception, and that has been the constant issue dealing with Mac Jones throughout the course of the last season and a half. Is just these mistakes that he's making, shooting himself in the foot, trying to do too much, not making the smart play when he's trying to extend plays. And, we did see Mac extend a few plays, be a little bit elusive in the pocket the first 2 weeks of the season, and actually look pretty good in those situations, considering his limited athletic ability. But over the last 3 weeks, when he tries to be elusive, when he tries to extend plays, that often leads to him trying to do too much and make a mistake. And that's exactly what he did there. He threw across his body to Hunter Henry, who was kind of open, but it was a bit of an awkward throw. He scrambled to his right to try to escape pressure. Threw a dumb interception. Patriots were threatening in the red zone, and quickly, we all said, well, here we go again. Maybe it's time to put in Malik Cunningham, who has moved up to number 2 on the QB depth chart. I'll get into that a little bit later because I don't really think Malik Cunningham is number 2. I think if Mac Jones were benched like the last 2 weeks, I'm not sure we would have seen him in there, but it was nice to see Cunningham out there the way he was in limited playing time. But Mac Jones still a much better game, and look, he's not the same quarterback. As I said last week, he is broken. He is a QB who is seeing pressure even when it's not there. He feels rushed. He's actually second in the league at avoiding sacks because he just gets rid of the ball quickly. But that's not really a good thing because he is getting rid of the ball because he can sense pressure and he knows he's going to get hit, and he's made a lot of mistakes in those situations like he did in the pick six last week in New Orleans. But other than that one mistake, and I know this is a story we said about Mac Jones, other than that one terrible mistake that probably cost him the game, he played a pretty decent game considering, didn't try to do too much on the other plays, but you got to limit those mistakes. And the more Mac continues to do that, the less playing time he's going to have in this league. And that brings up the future of Mac Jones with the New England Patriots. This is a team that dropped to 1-5 with the Bills and the Dolphins coming up. They're most likely going to be a 1-7 football team. What do you do there? Are you still going to ride with Mac Jones after that? Maybe you see how he plays. What's going to happen with Belichick after a 1-7 start? I'm not sure he comes back, at least as the GM instead of the coach, which is more of an issue. But when it comes to Mac, he's kind of broken playing in New England. You can tell it by his body language. Look at his rookie year. Look at week 1 this year when he was confident with Bill O'Brien in that offense, and they were actually doing a few things against that Philadelphia defense. His body language was better. He was more confident. He looked excited to be out there. He constantly looks like a deer in the headlights now. You can see the fear in his eyes. You can see him sensing pressure on every single play. This is not a quarterback who is comfortable in this system right now. And we've seen, throughout this past week, those who are close to Mac Jones kind of leaking to the media. A chef can't make garbage taste good. That obviously came from Mac's camp. Mac is frustrated. He doesn't like what he's getting. His offensive line is not protecting him. He had 2 rookie guards protecting him today. He knew Max Crosby. He knew where he was on every play. And, the Patriots were able to run the ball a little bit better today than they were in previous weeks, but it's still not anywhere it needs to be. They only ran the ball for 83 yards total. Raiders only did it for 84, so the Patriots defense did a good job, and I'll get to that as well. But, 200 yards total for Mac Jones, 176 yards passing. It's just not going to do it. When you're going to have a pocket passing quarterback like that, he needs to have the resources around him to be able to compete. He needs better receivers at that position. He didn't have Demario Douglas. Yes, Tyquan Thornton is back, but Tyquan Thornton is a toothpick. He's going to get broken the first time he gets hit hard. Devontae Parker, big play downfield, best throw of Mac Jones, at least of this season, really almost put the Patriots in field goal range with about a minute and a half left. There would have been about 1:30 left had they completed that deep throw to Devontae Parker. They would have been about the 50-yard line, which only have to go about 5-10 yards to make it a makeable kick for Chad Ryland, their kicker. Not the most accurate kicker, not sure it would have gone in, but they would have had a chance to win the game there. And Devontae Parker, he's the kind of receiver that needs to come up with that. You don't pick up a guy like Devontae Parker to create separation, to beat defenders downfield. No, you get him to catch 50-50 balls. You get him to be aggressive. You get him to block out on difficult throws, which he didn't do against week 2 in Miami. Cost the Patriots a red zone interception. He has been perhaps one of the biggest disappointments at the receiver position by Bill Belichick in the last decade, and there have been many. Devontae Parker, for some reason, they gave him a contract extension. I don't know why you have him out there. They treat him like he's a number 1 receiver. Kendrick Bourne is clearly their number 1 guy. Even though he can't run an effective route, he's still very athletic, has good hands, made a ton of great plays today. But Devontae Parker, you have to come up with that catch. You put the Patriots in position to win the game, and then they had a bunch of penalties and the eventual safety, which cost them. Gave Mac Jones no chance, and that is the kind of stuff that he is dealing with. Mac Jones may have a bright future, but it isn't under Bill Belichick, unfortunately. I just do not see. Maybe Belichick's gone, you keep him another year, you build around him, you bring in a new coach/GM, or a different coach and a different GM, give it to Gerard Mayo. Maybe Josh McDaniels is available, you bring him in, upgrade Bill O'Brien. I don't know, there's something you can do there, but he needs something to work with. Brady never had it this bad. The worst he ever had was 2019 in New England, and he still had much better weapons than Mac Jones is dealing with right now, not to mention all the injuries. So really tough time for Mac. I don't see his future being with Bill Belichick, and probably not being with the New England Patriots if ultimately they have a decent draft pick and have a shot at Caleb Williams or Sanders or Drake or some of these other guys that look like they could be real effective NFL quarterbacks right away. So, let me know what you think. Is Mac Jones, would you bench him now? I wouldn't. I'd say you ride out the next 2 weeks, see what happens. Don't expect them to win, but there was a lot of hand-holding there. And that's how the Patriots got those 2 touchdowns. After Mac threw that horrible interception, they really slowed things down. They kept it simple. They were able to march down the field a couple of times, but still chewed up a lot of time, a lot of clock, and they were unable to finish the game when they really had an opportunity. And it was the fingertips of Devontae Parker that ultimately cost them the game. So moving on to Bill Belichick, 1-5. I'm not seeing much of a future here. I think, he's probably going to drop to 1-7, as mentioned, with the Buffalo Bills coming to New England and then going on the road to Miami. Two of the better teams in the league. You're probably not going to win either of those games. If you can't beat the Raiders in a game like you did tonight, you're probably not going to beat those. So you have a 1-7 team. You have Bill Belichick, who has made countless errors when it comes to personnel over the last 4 seasons since Tom Brady left. The team has gotten worse. He has not been a great GM. I'd say if you're going to keep him as head coach, which is, there's an argument there, and I'll make it in a minute. But if you're going to keep Belichick as head coach, at the very least, you have to demote him as GM. You tell him that, hey, this is not working out. We have nobody that can protect our quarterback. We have no receivers, no weapons. You've done an okay job on the defensive side, but when it comes to actually selecting players, especially in the early rounds of the draft, especially in free agency, it hasn't worked out. Even when he spent in free agency, he brought in Hunter Henry. That worked out pretty well. He brought in Kendrick Bourne. It's kind of worked out okay, but Jonnu Smith, obviously not a great move. Juju Smith-Schuster, injured, no surprise. We get to see Jacoby Myers get another touchdown. A reliable slot receiver, Julian Edelman, Troy Brown type. Some guy he's going to cost basically the same thing that Juju would have cost. You still want to get rid of him for God knows what reason. There's so many other decisions. Drafting N'Keal Harry. I mentioned Devontae Parker hasn't worked out. Just having the opportunity to get DeAndre Hopkins basically at value this offseason, but because it wasn't quite the value you wanted, you let him go to Tennessee when the Patriots really showed no interest. That's the first thing. Belichick cannot be the GM anymore. You can argue he was a decent GM before. Tom Brady elevated the team. He was using old school football scouting methods that worked, but in today's game, you got to score 30 points a game to really have a shot to contend in this league. Patriots can't even score 20 points a game. So if Belichick's willing to just be the head coach, maybe that's the compromise, but who knows? Robert Kraft approaches him saying that he may just say, I'm walking away. I don't want to do this. I have a shot at Shula's record. Maybe I'll go somewhere else. Maybe I'll just retire. But he's a guy who wants control, and clearly, he doesn't have control over the offensive coordinator decision to bring in Bill O'Brien, and he's going to lose more control or potentially be fired altogether, assuming the team continues to struggle the way they are. I mean, if they drop to 1-7 and Robert Kraft really does want to move on from Bill Belichick, I know people think it's crazy, but then you actually cut him midseason. Give it to Gerard Mayo. See if he can be a decent head coach in this league. And he's, I guess, a very, tech-oriented, analytic, wonky, young type coach who could actually potentially be a coach/GM. I've heard a lot of great things about Gerard Mayo. Maybe you give him a shot there, give him a full offseason, see what team he can build. Maybe he sticks with Mac Jones, maybe he doesn't. But this Mac Jones-Belichick combination obviously is not working, at least when it comes to putting the personnel around him. So we'll see what happens with Bill Belichick. And then once again, the Patriots fall into an early 10-0 hole. It's been the story since middle of last season. Nearly every game, except for when they played the Jets or when they played the Miami Dolphins with a backup quarterback last year, they fall into these massive holes, and then they have to spend the whole game coming back and coming up short down the wire, which is what happened today. The good thing about Belichick still is he is a great in-game coach. He makes great adjustments, and they may come in with these poor game plans, but they end up making some of these comebacks, assuming the game isn't too out of reach. Chalk out the last 2 weeks. These other games where they fall into these early holes, they're still competitive for the rest of the game. So, look, Belichick is still a very good coach, perhaps the best in the league when it comes to in-game adjustments, when it comes to going into the locker room at halftime. And we saw exactly that with the offense today, where Mac Jones, offense looked terrible in the first quarter, couldn't get a first down, struggling on third down, 3 and out. And then Mac Jones, they finally start to generate a drive. Mac Jones throws across his body trying to extend the play, dumb interception, go into the locker room. They come out, they slow things down. They constantly give Mac a safety outlet so he can check down to the tight end, check down to the running back. They ran the ball a lot more effectively. They were mixing it up with halfback dives, inside runs. They were keeping it simple, but they were still bringing in a diverse group of plays. And look, if you do that, then you're not going to turn the ball over, and that's exactly why Mac Jones looked a lot better in the second half. Now, the thing is, the reason you have a quarterback like Mac Jones is because he's accurate, he's smart, has a high IQ, can make great adjustments before the snap, and you can run a complex offense with a guy like that. If you're going to take out all the complexity, what is the point in having Mac Jones? If Mac Jones is going to make stupid turnovers like he continues to do, had one today, then there's no point in having him. So look, if you drop to 1-7, even though if you keep these games competitive against the Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins, if you're going to keep it simple, you put Malik Cunningham out there and see what happens with a mobile quarterback, since he doesn't have a lot of protection to begin with. Let him run around a little bit, keep the defenses guessing, see if you can build something there, and who knows, maybe you have something there at the end of the season that you can ride with next year, and then you don't have to waste that first round pick on a quarterback if you can't get Caleb Williams or one of these other top guys. But let's get to Malik Cunningham, because I think he is really an interesting case study in what the Patriots could potentially be doing down the road. Heading throughout this week, it didn't look like Malik Cunningham would even be on the roster, the 53-man roster going into Las Vegas. He was kind of the scouting team quarterback. He's been playing at wide receiver. And then suddenly, a couple days ago, we get the news, Matt Judon goes on the IR. He's going to be out for a month. You elevate Malik Cunningham. And then we heard today, Malik Cunningham is the number 2 QB on the depth chart, bringing Will Grier off the roster and Bailey Zappi to number 3. Now, I would take that with a grain of salt. Something tells me, had the Patriots been down 30-0 in the third quarter, like they were the last 2 games, and you have to pull Mac Jones, they may have put in Bailey Zappi and then put in Malik Cunningham for the kind of Taysom Hill, Wildcat-style plays that they did bring him in for throughout the game, which was nice to see. The Patriots are trying something new. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. They did it a read option, and Cunningham made the wrong read. There was also the direct snap to Ezekiel Elliott, which was one of the 2 touchdowns in the game. But I really like what Malik Cunningham has brought to the table. And again, if Mac Jones continues to be kind of less than mediocre, continues to make turnovers, and it looks like the season is in the garbage can, especially if you're 1-5, 1-6, 1-7 after Buffalo and Miami, I'd say you give him a shot to start. If you're going to run this simple offense, that's something he can pick up right away. This offense that they were running in the second half, Malik Cunningham, this isn't the complex Josh McDaniels stuff they're running with Tom Brady. Cunningham could pick that up and run it right away. So, again, you probably run with Mac the next 2 games. Maybe you can steal one of them and surprise people if you don't turn the ball over and you play better defense. But the season's in the garbage can. You might as well experiment and see what you can get out of him, and maybe Belichick can build something up and save his job in the process. But overall, the defense actually, I think, played very well, considering you didn't have Christian Gonzalez out there. You didn't have Matt Judon. Held the Las Vegas Raiders to under 20 points. Yes, they had Brian Hoyer in the game in the second half, but teams that were running all over the Patriots, the last couple of weeks, they were not able to do that with Josh Jacobs. They're stacking the box a little, but they still took chances downfield. They totally took Devontae Adams out of the game. Devontae Adams was just a non-factor the entire game. Jacoby Myers obviously had a touchdown, had a few good plays, but he for the most part didn't do a lot. The real issue was the tight ends. You had Mayer and the other guy, Hooper, Austin Hooper, I believe. 2 very decent tight ends. Vegas does have some weapons that the Patriots certainly lack. And they couldn't obviously generate the pressure, set the edge that they could with Matt Judon out there. But for the most part, they did a pretty good job. The defense, you really can't complain when you don't have your best players out there. Josh Uche was not playing. He left the game. So, look, considering you have J.C. Jackson, who had a dumb penalty late in the game. Patriots still ended up getting the stop and had a chance to win it late. But J.C. Jackson, considering he was a non-factor with the Chargers, he's still playing pretty well. You can put him one-on-one against Adams and Myers, and he can do a decent job. Jonathan Jones, okay, not a big fan of Miles Bryant, Sean Wade, but they were more than good considering we're down to 5 and 6 on the depth chart. Hopefully you'll get Marcus Jones back eventually, and I'm not sure we'll see Christian Gonzalez this season, but a lot of depth on that defense, and this is a defense you could ride with if you had a good offense, a team that you could contend with if you had a good offense. So really not a lot of bad things to say about them there. The only issue is early in the first quarter, like every other game, teams march down the field because they just didn't have a great game plan, and that comes down to Bill Belichick. So the Patriots still struggle to be disciplined. I think they had 10 penalties for 79 yards. A lot of them came on the offensive line. Mafi, City, these guys who shouldn't be out there and wouldn't be out there if it weren't for injuries to Cole Strange and Owenu. But they can't be making those penalties down the stretch. There were miscommunications too with Mac Jones getting the receivers set. That was costly late in the game. We had the dumb penalty from Mac Jones. A lot of those unpatriot-like that are becoming increasingly patriot-like mistakes that we've seen over the last season and a half, essentially. But hey, Patriots are 1-5. They got the Buffalo Bills coming to town. Now, this isn't as good of a Buffalo Bills team, especially on defense, so I think the Patriots could still crack 20 points, if possible, next week. You're still going up against Josh Allen. You're still going up against those Buffalo weapons, but it's not going to be we're going to get the crap kicked out of us, definitely, type situation. It could happen. Very well might happen. But I think the Patriots should put in their best effort, see if they can pick up a surprise victory, improve to 2-5. Nothing exciting, but maybe then you have some momentum going into Miami where you would always lose. Even if you had a good team and Miami didn't, that's going to be very tough. It's still going to be hot late in October there. But chances are Patriots are going to be 1-7. Before the schedule gets a little bit easier then, but already at that point, you're basically out of it. You have to win 9 straight, and that's just not going to happen with this team. But, the question's going to come up. Do we tank? Do we give Malik Cunningham a chance to do something at the quarterback position, see if we can develop him a little bit? Is Bill Belichick gone, at least as the GM, or is he gone altogether? If they get blown out these next 2 weeks, does he get fired midseason? Does he get fired this week? I don't see that happening, but there is the argument there that you give Gerard Mayo a chance at interim head coach and you see where it goes. Again, I still think Belichick's a really good in-game coach. The game plans haven't been there. He's just a terrible GM these days. Does not draft well, at least in the early rounds. So there's a lot of questions. I think we're still at a crossroads. This was a game they were not expected to win. They were 3-point underdogs. They lost by 4. Really should have lost by 2 if it weren't for the safety. So tough if you were betting for the Patriots. At least you were betting the it to be within 3 points there. But 21-17, Las Vegas Raiders defeat the New England Patriots. We've got an interesting few weeks ahead of us. Lots of good conversations about Bill Belichick, his future, Mac Jones, his future, and there should be some exciting things. I mean, we're all going to be watching USC play now. I mean, Caleb Williams, they're in the conversation there. They're in the fight for the worst record in the NFL. Mac Jones, what can he do? Can he continue to build on... if he had a 1 interception today, all right, can we have a no turnover game? Can we have a couple weeks of no turnovers? Malik Cunningham, are they going to factor him into the offense a little bit more? What are they going to do with him? And are we going to see him have the chance to actually throw some passes? He was pretty good at Louisville. Go watch some of his highlights. I mean, was Lamar Jackson light out there. So it's a disappointing time. It's a rough time to be a New England Patriots fan, but it is exciting in the sense that there are a lot of questions, and we could have a new quarterback next year, a really exciting, flashy quarterback next year. We could have a new coach that invigorates the offense. We could have a new GM who brings in the type of personnel we haven't seen here in years. And look, Belichick did bring in Douglas. He did bring in Christian Gonzalez. He did bring in Marcus Jones a year ago. He brought in we still haven't seen Jack Jones. He'll be back out there eventually. There are a lot of exciting young players on this team that you can still build around. So I don't think a rebuild is is a massive problem, especially if you have an easier schedule next year. They have a brutal schedule this year. I mean, you have the Eagles and then the Bills, and then, yes, you had the Jets, but then you have the Cowboys, the Saints, who had a very good defense. And now, yes, you get Vegas, and then you got Bills and Dolphins. Like it's I don't ever remember there being a schedule this difficult, and then this is the season the Patriots land that schedule. Maybe they'll take advantage of it and have a great draft pick, but a lot of questions in the air. We'll see how it plays out. I don't think a lot's going to happen over the next week or two, but we'll see how they perform against two of the better teams in the NFL in the coming weeks.